everybody, I want to start by apologizing because some of the video is missing from this episode since we have technical difficulties. I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, thanks. Alright, everybody, welcome to Film for Thought, a film show, a film podcast by film students for film students. I'm your host, Michael Ardizabal, and yeah, welcome to our new studio. This is this is my dorm. It's just my dorm. It is probably where most of the film for show episodes are gonna be happening from now on. For those just listening in audio, it's just me in my dorm. And today I have Maya Lewis.
Hey, I'm Meaty Claus.
Maya's been on a couple episodes before, and yeah, we thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I was recently on Maya's podcast, Maya and Sam on the phone.
That's it.
Just plugging, subtle plug.
Subtle plug. Check it out.
But yeah, on today's episode, I sort of wanted to discuss mainly women in the industry because I was inspired by two things in particular. Mainly, do you know who Whitney Cummings is?
No.
She's a stand-up comedian. She's a very well-known female stand-up comedian, and she has this podcast called Good For You.
Okay.
And I was listening to it recently, and she was talking with another. Oh my bad. She was talking to another female comic about sort of like the Me Too stuff and everything that was happening like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about all that, and it was, I don't know, and she was talking to another person that was in this industry. I think it was Olivia Munn, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
You know who she is?
No.
The Newsroom.
Yes.
Okay, she was in the Newsroom.
Okay.
She was also in the X-Men. She did something else, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
I probably know the face.
She's like a B-list actor,
okay.
honestly.
Okay.
I mean, not in a bad connotation. She's like, I mean, well-known, but like not Will Smith level, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why Will Smith? Oh my god.
I mean, like, in the...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get
like,
it.
in like, how can she, like, readily know?
Yeah.
But... that's besides the point. And I mean to offend Olivia Munn's career. No, like, and they were talking. They got like a very serious, in-depth conversation on like how hard it is in the industry. They're especially talking about like women of color and how, difficult it is to, overcome sort of like the adversaries that have been like preset in the industry, because like. Yeah, the industry is more diverse now than it was, for example, 20 years from ago. But it still has sort of, those same like values that it did before.
Yeah. It's probably true, I would say.
Like I was just thinking about I was looking at some other statistics for, like different ethnicities and people who work as, like writers in Hollywood and stuff like that.
I know writers are always predominantly white.
Yeah, and I knew they were predominantly white just because like Hollywood in general is predominantly white, but I didn't know it was that big of a gap.
Oh.
It was like
big.
A massive gap. Like writers in Hollywood it was like 89% or 89 or 92% were white.
Oh, damn, that's bad.
Yeah, that was it. It was very bad, and I specifically saw it because like writers in Hollywood. I feel like this was specifically for shows or like people who work consistently for different production companies.
Mm-hmm.
The Latino margin was 0.7%.
Yeah, it's really interesting because actually, like, you have. I think the most diversity usually happens on screen because everyone, like, people complained about it, and then you turn on Netflix or you turn on the TV, and if you start seeing more black and brown faces, Asians are not brown. What do we? I don't want to say yellow because that is offensive. I'm half Asian, so just saying. But like, I don't know what to say. But black and brown and Asian people, that are not black and brown. But yeah, you see more like representation on screen. But then I guess because the average consumer is not paying attention to what's happening beyond the screen. Like if you go to set, it's like all white people, and most people don't know that. So yeah, there's more representation on screen, but there's none of it behind the camera, and so virtually none of it. So it's just interesting because you have all of these like interesting stories being presented on screen, but who are they being written by? And they're being written by like white people, and like one token black person that they could go to for like, hey, I mean, how would you say this, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard to evaluate. I feel like we learned a lot about this. Maya and me took a class last semester. It was called Black Life on Screen by a professor you did not like.
Personally did not like that class, but
but I personally learned a lot about that specifically because before coming to film school or before getting into college and just actually getting in to be my toe into the industry and in that way, I didn't realize I was also the average consumer. I was like, well, it looks to be like there is diversity on screen, but it is because people complained and just I didn't think like. I thought well, if there's a black person on screen and it was representing some type of black culture or something like that, my mind automatically assumed somebody from the same cultural background wrote the story and or was behind the scenes like directing it and all these things, because there's a certain level of understanding you have to have with the story, not necessarily the exact same cultural experience, but at the same time there has to be some overlap in order for you to be able to understand.
Yeah, I guess like for example, I saw this yesterday. I'm not watching this movie, but Mulan came out and it's super, there's so much Asian. Have you seen Great Wall with Matt Damon?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So it's like that one, he's Chinese, but he's white. So, and then everyone else is like Chinese and they're defending Great Wall, whatever. And so Mulan, the live action, there was a lot of scrutiny about, are you going to have Asian actors? Are they going to be Chinese? Like, what's the point? Everyone's like really takes that sort of thing seriously because representation, it matters. So thankfully they had an Asian cast, but there was issues, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
With that.
There were definitely a lot of issues.
A lot of issues with that. However, the entirety of the production team, almost like the
people behind. I don't know as much like for the people who were working on behind the scenes. Like I don't know the director or nothing, but I do know
production team is white. Production team was white.
Oh, it's white?
Yeah, they're white.
Oh, shit.
And most of them are white. Production. So you have, it's a classic example. If you have all the representation, the main actress is Chinese. She's Chinese. And a lot of the actors are Chinese. Everyone's Asian on screen. But if you go behind the camera, you have Wilson, all these like white names. They're white. So it's really interesting. Also, that movie, there's like so much controversy with that. They thanked the concentration camps for.
Yeah, that's some of the reason I just did not want to, because I saw all that because of the concentration camps that they had, and it was so close. It was like 5 kilometers away from where they were shooting.
They were like, thank you for keeping the lovely people detained so that we could film our movie.
And I was like, oh, I saw that. I was like, I cannot believe this.
Yeah,
this is like...
yeah.
I was like, how did they think they were going to get away with this?
Cannot watch it. But yeah, no,
I'm not going to watch it just because, it's...
No, it's not happening. Even though I really love Mulan, but it's not. I got the cartoon.
I love Mulan. Mulan, I think was my favorite
Mulan's
Disney movie.
my favorite. Mulan 1 and 2. So good. So good. Strong women leads. Yeah, there's a second one.
I know there's a second one.
It's great.
But
yeah, classic example of how there's like no representation below the line. So.
But it's also above the line. It's just like strictly on people in front of the camera.
That's true. Yeah, actually, you're right.
Because that's the problem. Because the problem is that there isn't a diversity like above the line. There isn't. Yeah. Because if the director, the screenwriter, and the producers are all white, then the story they're gonna make for something relating to Black culture, Latino culture, Asian culture, something is just gonna be completely morphed into something that isn't what it should be in a sense.
Well, to quote Wells Fargo, there wasn't enough black people in the talent pool to take from. And that's why we don't have the representation that we need.
Me and my roommate were, he told me about the Wells Fargo thing, and I was like, who said that? And he was like, oh, the CEO.
The CEO. Bro, we were playing Among Us and I heard you talking about it.
But, I don't know, it's so scrutinizing. I mean, like, personally, I do want to, I mean, ideally everybody who gets in film wants to do something above the line. Just do, like, creative work in general. But I never saw myself as being an actor. Or, like, I never wanted to act. Definitely want to learn how to act. Just to be able to, like, relate to actors if I'm directing or something. But I never personally wanted that. And then I saw, like, all these statistics of, like, I don't know, only 0.7% of all writers in TV shows in Hollywood are Latino. And, you have to go through, like, all this scrutiny just because, like, most of them are white. And it's just, like, you're just, like, there's so many, like, hurdles you have to come across. And this is the main reason why I want to talk about women in the industry, because Whitney Cummings, the female comic that I was telling you about that has the podcast that I was listening to, I mean, she's a producer and she writes, and she's like done network television shows, and she was talking about, like, the scrutiny that she has to face, and, like, in not, like, direct sexism, I would say, not like, oh, you're women, you can't have a show, but it's she was talking about, like, the subtlety of it.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the support for what she's doing. And the show, I can't remember the exact name of the show, I'm gonna have to look that up in a bit, but the show she was making, she got it picked up before, like, all the feminist movement got really big, and before, like, the Me Too movement started happening. And I mean, all of the negative reviews she was getting was all based on her appearance. It wasn't based on, by the way, the people who were criticizing it.
What does she look like?
I mean, she's a very pretty woman.
Well, no, is she, like, dark skinned? Does she have, like, natural
hair?
No.
Like... I'm pretty sure she's half Asian. I could be mistaken. But she looks fairly white, to be completely honest. It's what she looks like.
Okay.
And
on her appearance,
she made
she's like a white woman.
Two Broke Girls. That's the show. So.
Oh.
Yeah,
exactly. I know exactly who that is.
She made Two Broke Girls, and the show that was being scrutinized.
Oh, I watched that stand-up. Yeah, I know who she is.
The show that was being scrutinized was, I think it was Whitney, I'm pretty sure it was Whitney.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that show happened, like, before everything got really popular, and, like, I mean, main social media, not social media, it's like, it just became more common to, like, support women more openly, and, like, if you didn't, it was seen bad as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, she was saying, like, the critics, like, film critics or TV critics that normally, judge stuff, or, like, if it was a man doing that show, and if it was, like, called, like, Brian, and, like, this dude named Brian had the show, it would be based on, the merit of the production, the writing, the stuff like that. But because she made the show and she was a woman, and it was made in 2013 or 2011 to 2013, it was all based on her appearance.
Yeah.
All these reviewers were like, she's not pretty enough, this and that, and it was just negative and, like, toxic.
So odd. Yeah, no one talks about Lil Dicky's appearance in Dave, so.
I mean,
well, it is 2020, but no one does. That is unfortunate. I will say, like, I don't really work on set that much, but I don't think anyone's directly being rude, but there's a lot of, like, let me, like, explain this to you just so that, like, I understand that you get it. And I'm like, yes, I get it. And it's like, there's a lot of, like, let me just make sure you understand, like, exactly what's being said.
I mean, from your personal experience, do you feel like you get that from, like, being a novice, or, like, just, like, being new to the industry? Do you feel like you get, like,
no.
Do you get, like, an extra layer of that just because, like, they see, like...
No. I think there's a difference between, like, let me tell you, like, let me show you the ropes of how to do something. That I understand. Like, I walk on set. It's like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, let me tell you what you're doing. Yeah, I think I had someone come up to me, doing, what was I doing? NCIS or something, maybe? I don't know. I did like NCIS for 3 days or something like that.
You did PA work?
I was like working with locations.
Okay.
Like not directly, but I hung out with locations. And locations people are great. But someone's still my friend from locations. So, but I think I had someone come up to me, and I don't have a walkie or anything because I wasn't on the team. Like I wasn't hired by NCIS. Like John asked me.
Yeah.
So, so I went on and I was doing whatever, and I don't really have to do anything. You just like circle, and you don't do anything unless someone tells you to do something. So, yeah, you don't have anything to do. But I've had people, like I had someone just come up to me, and they were like, yeah, like, why don't you have, like a walkie? And I was like, oh no, like I work, through Loyola with that. And then they were just like, oh, okay, well, like you need to like go. And I was like, no, like I was told to like be here. And then they were like, oh, like, are you sure? And I was just like, why is there all of this like questioning happening?
Yeah.
There's a lot of just like, I don't know, it was just a certain tone too. So, when someone's just talking to you versus when someone's talking to you like this, it's like, okay, wait.
Yeah, I mean, there's a subtlety in condescension.
There's like a subtle condescension. So it's just kind of like, that could have just been his demeanor, but it could have also just been like, why are you mansplaining what I'm here to do? Plus, you didn't hire me, so you don't know what my position is, and you can't tell me what I do or don't do here. So,
I mean, can you sort of explain what you're doing, or at least the process for the people who don't exactly know what locations does?
Oh, so what locations finds the location, and then they stay on site. So like, I don't know if like a vent is making too much noise or something, they'll go check out the vent and then go contact someone to like fix the vent or whatever, or they'll be like, hey, if there's a problem on the location with the physical location, then location gets called. Like, oh, like the room we put makeup in is way too small. Locations, can you like find another room for them to go to? And locations does that sort of thing. So we just kind of stay on site and just oversee it. So you don't really have to do anything, but you do kind of work with every single department because everyone is on the location.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's sort of overseeing, making sure that everything, is up to par in that way.
Yeah, and you're usually like one of the more earlier people to show up on set when you go to work and you leave late. So, I don't know. But, yeah. There's been that, and then I think there's been like a couple of times where like I felt like I wasn't being listened to, and I was just like, I don't.
You were telling me you had that experience with that actor. I'm not gonna say his name, but you had an experience with an actor, and I felt like from what you were telling me, it sounded very subtly sexist. Honestly, just because of how he was treating you.
Yeah, just
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, just making sure.
Still upset. We'll never watch his movies again. But yeah, no. There's just like subtle things. It's just, I don't know. I think sometimes men feel like, women don't have as much authority, or women don't belong there, or, if you're a person of color, then probably even more so. So I think there's like a strict hierarchy. Like, it's like, we're not going to listen to women, period. But like, if it's a white woman, we're more likely to listen. And if it's like a lighter skinned woman, we're more likely. If it's a darker skin, it's just like there's a hierarchy there. So,
but it's also, I don't feel like it's sort of like, it's just so like entrenched like psychologically into, or like subconsciously into the industry, and how that like sort of like a racial hierarchy. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think it's there really pretty much in every single component of life.
I mean, true. But at least from what my experience, like,
your experience as a woman.
That's not where I was going, but But like, I mean, like my experience being exposed to black culture in the United States, living abroad, you know,
Yeah.
like or like the way I was saying, like I was a consumer, like I automatically thought it was if I was watching a movie or something of black culture, like black people on screen or stuff like that, I'd automatically assume that the people working behind the camera would also have that cultural background, like I was saying.
Yeah.
And then I sort of came to realize how it isn't that way, and I mean I feel like that's why it's so particular. Yeah, because it is this same way in like practically every other business there is.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a certain just like hypocrisy to it because they put actors in front of the screen and they just I don't know.
Well,
it's like racial
it's all
propping.
very
like I don't know how
it's all just very performative. I feel like now I will say that in recent years you have more prominent black like directors and producers who like Ava DuVernay and like Jordan Peele and stuff like that. So you have more people who care about that sort of thing because you also have like black creators who don't really care about that sort of thing, so they'll just work exclusively almost with white people, or they won't hire black people to work with them, or they won't extend opportunities. It's just so they're also part of it for some reason. And you also have black, because even then like a lot of the people are male, so it's like then there's just a lot of like we don't look at black women and other women of color as the same on the same tier, or you kind of like automatically don't consider it because you consider people who look like you. So if you're a man, you're probably looking at other men. Me as a woman look at other women, sort of thing. So you're just like not considered usually, and you can do the same amount of work, even maybe sometimes better. You might have the same amount of experience, or you might have to have, and a lot of times you have to have more experience, and you have to like literally be like, this is what I can do, in order for people to be like, oh, okay, because they won't just, if you just walk up and you're like, hey man, like, can I have this job? They're like, whoa, like, what are your credentials? Like, what can you do? Like, hold up, like, why?
There's a lot more scrutiny.
You just have to really like, because there used to be like, I think my dad, who grew up like during segregation, used to say it like, okay, he's not dead, so he still kind of says it, but he's like, in order for you to get noticed, you have to do twice the amount of work as white people. And I don't subscribe to that because fuck white people, but I understand, because you have to do so much more to get noticed and to get taken seriously. You have to have so many credentials. Sometimes they're like, oh, you're overqualified. It's like, what does that mean? So there's just a lot going on there with that.
Yeah.
I feel like.
But, I mean, the main reason why I asked you to, come on and I wanted to talk about this topic specifically, or like race and like, like gender on screen, and mainly was because of like the comments that Whitney commented on her podcast, and also in relation to race, where Maya and me are working on a short film right now for a class, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, we had to start doing casting for the movie, and I mean, especially like reading those statistics about writers, and I mean, I personally want to be a screenwriter, and that's what I want to be a producer. So it was sort of overwhelming to see that and to picture like, I'm gonna have to go through a lot of obstacles to be able to overcome that. Mm-hmm. And I mean in the project we're doing, I just completely don't want for race to be a thing, because we're starting to do casting, and our producer asked me like, what are we looking for on these two characters? The one of the protagonists has his sister, and they're like, oh, what do they look like? What's their race? Sort of what's your your image of them? And I was like, I don't want to give like, I just really didn't feel like I wanted to give like a description of like what they look like, because I feel like, I do feel like we all sort of have personal biases of like, we would choose people that look like us, or like we grew up around, or like people that look like people we grew up around, just because like you're familiar with that type of people. Yeah. I think, and I don't want for that to be like a bias for me to have, so I just said like, just do open casting, just making sure that those people like sort of look similar, just to make sure they look sort of related in that way. Mm-hmm. But didn't want to limit anybody's ability to being able to act for the project that we're doing, because like I'm sort of starting to understand how much scrutiny actors and like people above and below the line have to go through in order to get the jobs that
Yeah.
mainly are directed toward just white males.
I also think like living here for as long as, because I've lived here like all my life.
Here's New Orleans,
Here's
Louisiana, by the
New
way.
Orleans, but I guess like the U.S. So, race wasn't a thing for me until I was like maybe 10. So until then I was a kid, so I didn't know. But I used to really, really read books a lot. I read like Harry Potter, I read Lord of the Rings, I read like all the Percy Jackson, like I liked reading. I read all of these books. I'm pretty sure all of those characters are white, and you have it in the description. Like you have Harry has like green eyes and dark black to brown hair, and like you have Percy Jackson who has like messy hair and like fair skin. So they're all white, and so whenever I read, unless there is a description provided as to what the person already looks like, unless they're like their name is like Faye Chin or something, like age, like unless there's any sort of like hint as to what they look like. If their name is just Percy Jackson, in my head the default character is just white. Like every time, like every single time. So when I read your script, I didn't even think about that. So I read your script, like Sarah in my head was Saoirse Ronan, and then the other guy I thought was old, but he actually isn't. So there's just nothing. There's just like a man's figure there and like a suit and like a cane, and it's like all I see. But yeah, in my head, which I've been trying to like undo, because people can look like anything, and it's also really cool reading something and then seeing like what they look like. But yeah, because all of the characters I grew up with are white, and all the movies I watch, like most of them are white, and unless they're like Spike Lee, which is like pretty much all I watched, but and then like gangster movies that my dad really liked. But yeah, most of everything that I liked as a kid, like Coraline and stuff, they're all white. And so yeah, in my head, anytime I read anything, it like default it's just like a white person. Which I hate, because white people are like considered the default character for like the US, which is unfortunate, even though it's like so many different types of people here, which is why representation is important.
But also it's outside of the U.S. because I have the same thing, because like the U.S. is just such a, it just exudes like culture, exudes like, and it like like it trickles down to every country.
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
Like especially like movies like Hollywood, stuff like that. It just has such a far outreach. I have the same thing. Like when I was writing the script, I was like, that's what I was picturing. I was
automatically
picturing people that
look
white or that are light skinned, and I mean I obviously didn't. It's not, it wasn't inherent, it wasn't out of place of malice, it was just like sort of a custom.
Yeah.
Like I didn't grow up reading like Percy Jackson or Harry Potter. My sister did, but I grew up more with sort of comic books and stuff like that.
Well, they're white too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's the thing, like all I love Stan Lee, but like Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Bob Kane, all these guys that sort of made and built the industry from the ground up.
Yeah.
They're all white.
Everyone that you see is
Definitely
usually white.
They have like sort of, I mean, like like how Stan Lee like made the X-Men about like like different problems that you face like with racial discrimination and like like with sexual identity and stuff like that. But the thing is, it was very subtle, and like even then they were all white.
Yeah,
and
they're all white.
Just like you can see a raster of like all these heroes and everything. It's like they're predominantly white. And at least when I grew up reading comic books, that's normally what I had. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman.
Exactly.
Everything that sort of I was looking at was all these sort of white characters. Like what we had, like Cyborg from Teen Titans.
Yeah, like, and I just found out Jinx is like black or something, or no, Indian. She's Indian, but she has brown skin. Jinx from Teen Titans. Did you ever play the game? No, did you watch Teen Titans? You watched Teen Titans, right? Teen Titans. Yeah, Jinx is the gray girl with pink hair.
Oh, she has she's Raven. She's not Jinx.
No. Raven is on the team, but there's an enemy, and her name is Jinx, and she has pink hair, and it's like in horns.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
So she's Indian in the comics, in some of the comics. She's like,
I did not know that.
Brown skinned with like electric blue hair, and like she still has pink eyes. But
I mean, I don't. like especially when it comes to like okay, in the Teen Titans you have like Starfire, and she's from a different planet, yeah, but like she has like orange skin.
Yeah.
He basically looks like a white person with a bad tan.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's versions of Starfire that are black.
I mean, yeah, in the new show, but this is the thing. If you, I mean, I don't know who's working behind the scenes. I don't know who's directing and who the writers are. But if I had to put money on it, I say they're all white.
Oh yeah, of course
they're all white guys.
White. Of course they are.
But like, I mean, yeah, they made Raven black and for the TV show.
Jinx.
No.
Wait, Raven's black?
Not Raven.
Starfire. Yeah, Starfire.
And that's pretty much about it.
Yeah. So. I mean, there's also a lot of outcry whenever like characters that you grew up with that are like one race or color, because it's usually cartoons are like suddenly a different color. Like when
especially when it's like cartoon or like animated, because like there's such you know it can vary so much
over that, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Somebody outside.
Something's happening. But
I don't know.
Yeah,
like, I mean it's, and also like I mean this is like my experience, you know, like as a Latino person, but like I there's things that I just personally can't fathom because I'm a guy, you know, and I'm trying to sort of like I'm slowly starting to realize these things through, you know, like there's this article I was reading about Sofia Coppola, who's all right. I want to apologize. I'm sorry that happened. The SD card ran out of memory, and I had to switch it out. But yeah, we're back.
We're back.
So what I was saying about Sofia Coppola before it stopped is that Sofia Coppola is the daughter, for those who don't know who she is the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, the director of the Godfather movies, and she also was an actress in the third movie. She was the daughter of Michael. And
she's that little girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was the teenager.
Oh, okay.
And she was heavily scrutinized.
Why?
Yeah, she was heavily scrutinized. She was
like, who the fuck is this kid, yo?
She was like, her performance is bad. She was getting a lot of scrutiny.
She's a child.
It was like her performance is bad. She was just there because of her dad.
Yeah, she was.
I mean, probably.
It's his movie. It's okay.
But also, like, they're practically just doing character assassination on her, and I feel like, and a lot of it had to do also with how she looked and how she presented herself.
How does she look and how does she present herself? I don't remember Godfather 3.
I mean, just like in the aspect of like being feminine. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, just like she got more scrutiny because she was a woman on screen.
Oh, okay.
Or like she was being a girl and, you know, doing different types of things, and she got a lot of scrutiny for it, and I was like reading about it, and then she later in her career she went less from acting more to directing and writing, and I mean, she made this movie that we're sort of talked about a little bit.
Spider-Man movie.
Sophia Coppola. She made Marie Antoinette and Lost in Translation, and I mean, she also did The Virgin Suicides.
Okay.
And there was a lot of scrutiny on her movies because of femininity.
Really, I just didn't like Marie Antoinette that much. I thought it was kind of boring.
I mean, from the reviews that I was seeing, it was like, oh, this is childish. Oh, this is this is just too feminine. This is too bright. The colors are too pastels. It just doesn't look like aesthetically pleasing for, you know, how a movie has to look and stuff like that.
I just say, like, critics sometimes really ruin the like artistry behind movies, because I feel like if it were left up to like Hollywood critics, not just like, you know, people who write critics for like reviews for fun, but like if it was left up to Hollywood critics, I think every single movie would be colored like the Joker, with like the shadows and like the dual, you know, and I feel like there would just be a very muted color palette, and you have to have like that somber orchestral music with trumpets to like everything would be like Taxi Driver and like Joker and like those
Foreshadow
Oscar
to the next episode.
foreshadowing. Everything would be that same vibe, and it just like if someone comes out with like pastels and like completely throws like whatever out the window and just kind of does their own thing and does like something
But
experimental.
you know what? I disagree. I slightly.
No, a lot of times.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you completely. But in the same way, I feel like women directors, I feel like get more shit for
No,
it.
they definitely do.
Because like Ari Aster, good example.
Horrible movies, yo.
Okay, I don't hate the movies. I like Midsummer. I thought it was cool.
Fucking trash
but like
movies.
all that paganism, that's a little too much.
If a woman had made that, y'all would not be watching that movie. I'm just saying.
That I mean,
you would not be watching that movie. You'd be like, "Who the fuck is Heather Greenlee? And why did she direct Midsummer?" And it's fucking trash.
you know, Safdie brothers. They made
Uncharted. Uncut Gems.
Yeah, they made A Good Time and Uncut Gems. Like, it's really they're great movies. They're
great
very
movies.
Objectively, they're very well made. The direction, like the directing the actors is great. But the thing is, if they were made by female directors,
you never know.
Would they have had the same level of accolades as they do?
You never know. Well, actually, I feel like if they had made something, if a woman had made something like, let's say I made Uncut Gems. If I had made Uncut Gems, I feel like there would be a lot of like, okay, well, so she's black, so like this must be a metaphor for something, you know, like that sort of thing.
Trying to dig, like you mean like they're trying to dig.
Yeah, they'd be like they'd be like, yo, Adam Sandler's character is a representation of the black community and how we like try to like triumph and how we keep getting beat down and in the end we all die. Like it would just over analyzing the fuck out of it. I'd be like, nah, I just want to make a crazy movie. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
I just want to make Bicycle Thief, but like modern. So,
and that's I feel like there's a fair representation. I hate the fact that like just anybody can go in and review movies just stuff like that. But I also really like it for the fact that there's a real say on what people think about it.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, a lot of
times sometimes it brings like very awful things to light, like sort of what Sofia Coppola has had to go through and stuff like that, and like Whitney Cummings with the show she made. But the thing is, with those different examples, you can sort of tell like what you have to do, because the thing is, I feel like these critics don't take into account, or just like people in general don't take into account, because like we're just like so stuck with our own like biases, like racially, culturally, that we forget like everybody's creative. Everybody who is in this field and who wrote a script, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, or direct something, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, they are creative and they have something creative in them. And that's not limited by their race, their gender, their color, whatever. Like
Nicolas Cage is her cousin.
Is she?
Damn. Maybe that's why the movies do better.
That's interesting. I mean, but that's what I'm trying to say is basically like, everybody who's in this industry, or at least trying to make it, they're trying to make something particular to themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, sometimes I was reading a story by Robert McKee, and then he said, in an ideal world, art and politics should never cross. But in the world that we currently live, they cannot keep their hands off of each other, which I think it makes a lot of sense. And because of that, because like people do input a lot of politics and stuff like that into their movie, and not like I don't mean politics as in like, you know, like government. I mean politics as in, you know, commercial versus artistry, and like that type of like, you know, like binary perceptions.
Yeah, I mean they've been doing that since like the 40s, when people made movies.
If you subtract the aspect of politics, and it's just like,
art. I mean, what is that? The art comes from commentary, so I don't understand how that would even be possible. What does that actually mean? Like his quote. Because how can you have art without politics? I think art is a product of politics.
I mean, he wasn't referring to politics as it's separate from commentary. It's more to do with like, you know, commercial versus artistic. He used some other examples, but I can't place them in my head. But it had more to do with the aspects of how people sort of perceive.
Oh, is it like leave your like racism at home? Like
Yeah, sort of like that. Like it's sort of more like the perception people take from the art form.
Oh, like okay, leave your personal politics at home.
Exactly.
We're like here to work
Yeah.
on this, and
Yeah.
like this is what we're doing. Okay, I see.
But I mean, and that's, I'm pretty sure that's what he was trying to come across too, because I mean, like in the form that in his book Story, he was talking about how, you to make art universal archetypes and everything like that. He was referring to like, yeah, it's good to have sort of that aspect of commentary
Yeah.
and like personal experience and like write about what you know and what you've lived through. Not exactly each individual experience, but like the emotions that you carried throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, keep politics out of it, as in your biases.
Yeah.
And that is, I feel like that is also reminiscent of the audience and something the audience should do actively, which
Yeah.
is a lot harder to execute because everybody has biases.
Everyone has biases, but
And it's a really, really, really hard thing to get rid of. But at the same time, it's, if you subtract the biases you have and you subtract sort of the politics away from the art, especially when it comes to a movie, you're really just left with, like something good. Like anybody could have made a good time. I mean, not to say anybody could have made the movie, but to say like if anybody made the movie, they would have had the same recognition that these people had.
yeah,
The Safdie brothers
like
had.
an objective.
Exactly.
I actually think that someone should, write under a pseudonym and see what happens.
I was thinking of maybe getting a pseudonym.
What's your pseudonym?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. I
But
mean,
the
you
thing
can't
is,
tell me
but
it's a pseudonym.
but the thing is, or not really a pseudonym, more like what's it called when artists have different names?
Yeah.
Artist name or
If
something.
you just
like
made
that.
your name Mike White instead of Michael Lardizabo.
But that's. I was thinking of. I mean, that's also like a cultural thing, or not a cultural thing, just like. Just like it's an aspect of like just not being white, or I remember very distinctly one of the first reasons, because I for a really long time I was like, when I get on screen or when I make a movie, I'm gonna put like artistic name, I'm gonna put like a different name, it's gonna be like Michael something, or just change my name completely. And then we're in colloquium at my school, and for those who don't know, colloquium is basically where film colloquium is basically where all the film majors from the school we go to just convene, and they're there.
It's like a seminar.
It's like, yeah, it's like a seminar. It's sort of, we have like different things that happen, like meetings, speakers, and stuff like that. And this is no way, shape, or form directed towards the school and the institution at all, but this is just sort of how it is. And I remember I stood up. I can't remember what I was talking about, but I remember I said something. I introduced myself. I think it was introducing the podcast, actually. And I said, "Hi, my name is Michael Ardizabal," and I pronounced it like that. And a lot of people giggled and laughed at me pronouncing my name correctly. And I thought at that moment, I got flustered. I felt embarrassed.
What's your name?
I mean, yeah, it's my name, but that's at the same time, because I felt like embarrassed for it. I was like that, and that moment I realized I'm not gonna change it.
Oh yeah, no.
I was like, I'm not gonna change it.
Fuck you. Pronounce my name.
I was like, no. It's like, it's your problem if you don't pronounce my name. Like I don't know. Like that's sort of those sort of little things are the things that I feel like people that have to deal with like not being a white guy on screen have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's not like the big issues that you have to carry. It's the
It's
very
like
little
the
things that like build up inside you.
Yeah, it's because very few people I feel like are outwardly racist. Very few.
What do you mean?
Like very few people that you will come across in life, unless you live like in Vita or Texas or something like that. I don't know. But I feel like very few people are going to be outwardly rude and racist to you. Like, if I go somewhere, it's more so gonna be like, oh, like, is that your real hair? Or like, oh, like, so did you grow up in Japan? Or, oh, like, when I was a kid, it used to be like, do you eat raw fish every day? Or like, do you eat cats and stuff like that? So it's more so like stuff like that. That's not like, you don't know. It's like ignorance. It's not really like, oh, like, fucking, like, you know, nigga. Like, you know, it's not that.
Yeah.
So
This is
it's
purely also like very much prevalent in the film industry, because like
yeah.
most people will be like, if for example, if there's a show or a movie like about, you know, black culture or something, I can't think of an example on the top of my head, but and then all the writers were just white guys in their 40s or something, and then you would say like, that's racist or not racist, or you just be like, that's, you know, bad, you falsely representing a group of people, and be like, oh, I'm not racist.
Yeah,
I'm not racist. And
they'll
be like, I'm doing my job.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times like they're
and
not
like,
racist,
and
but
they're also
wrong.
There's also justification for it, because there would be not justification for that, but justification, like the way that they would justify it would be like, but we're talking about it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, there's just
about,
I
like,
think
black
that a
culture
lot
and
of
stuff like
times
that.
I've noticed with white people that a lot of times there's a certain fragility there where they're just very, very defensive. Like, I don't really know what it is, but I think the topic of race, especially in this country with its literal 300-year history, like, it's just a very sensitive. It's more sensitive for white people than it is, I feel like, anybody else that lives here. But yeah, they're just so defensive. So if you even like were to be like, oh, like, you know, because someone called me Oriental, and so I was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's not racist, but it's not the 60s, so
Exactly.
you can just say Asian, or you can say Japanese, East Asian. Oriental is
or
a
it's
bit,
it's like,
you know,
people also in the States, they'll be like, they don't say black people, or they'll like
Oh.
whisper it. They'll like scared of saying it. They'll be like
black. It's like, no, you can say black.
It's like that. There's nothing bad about
Bro, I'm black.
The bad thing is if you whisper it, like, that's the issue.
It's weird. It's like, no, like, if you talk about, there's a black guy, you know, yeah, he's black, so yeah,
It's like,
I'm
yes,
black.
that is a thing.
That
You
is
don't
what
have to
they-
whisper
you don't
it.
have
It's
to-
not a secret.
You don't have to be like the African American person. It's no, I'd rather just say black. It is what it is. You don't have to be afraid of saying the word black. It's like there's a lot of tiptoeing on eggshells, but at the same time they're very defensive if you are ever like, oh wait, like, there's a better way to say this, or there's a better way to like go about talking about this subject, or there's just a wall that goes up, and it's like, whoa, I'm not racist, and it's like, I know you're not racist. I'm just trying to tell you, because what they don't realize is, like, as a white person, you live in a completely different bubble than everybody else in the country because you're white. It doesn't matter if you're poor. It doesn't matter. Like, you might be able to relate a little bit better, depending on your circumstance, depending on where you live, depending on, you know, whatever. But at the same time, you're white. And I've seen firsthand a lot of times just like, oh, like, y'all just live in a different bubble. I mean, you know, there's people... I like talk with my friends who are white, and like we communicate a lot, but there's a lot of people that never do that and that don't have friends of color, and they just have no idea what's happening. So yeah, they have no idea what's happening, and then they want to advocate for things, and then if they're wrong about it, or if they went about it the wrong way, they're extremely defensive. And so it's just kind of like annoying, because this is an important subject and we want to correct the representation. We want more people to be on screen, and no one is saying like, oh,
and
like,
the issue with this is specifically in the industry is like, yes, these aren't inherently bad things. That, I mean, there are things that could be corrected, and because of this like cultural defense that like white people have,
yeah,
you in the industry, you really have to tiptoe your way through it.
Yeah, it's
because
really
if
annoying.
If somebody calls me a Mexican or something on set, and they have authority over me, I know that, you know,
you have
culturally,
to like not make a big deal about
exactly
it.
because if you do and you're like, hey, actually I'm Honduran, and
they're like, oh, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. I just didn't know.
Exactly. And they even if if I say something like that and I didn't mean it by a negative connotation, they and they take it by a negative connotation. They have power over me, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there is an issue there where you like, you know, you grow apart in that sense. Like it's a very delicate ecosystem, I'd
Yeah,
say, or
it's
not even an
weird.
ecosystem at all, because like you don't have the ability to correct in some ways, because
Yeah.
most people that have power or authority in the industry are white men, which
Yeah.
get heavily defended, or the white people in general that get heavily
Yeah,
defended
and
if
it's a
you ever
lot of
try and
times
correct
it's
them.
because they're embarrassed that they have these internal, like I think I was talking to someone, they were older, and they were like, yeah, like, you know, what do you think about people that have, like, you know, like the neon green hair and stuff like that? And we were just like, I mean, it's pretty, so I don't really care. If the wig looks good, then it looks good, so whatever. They were just kind of like, yeah, I think it's like, you know, I see these girls walking around, I think it's just a little, I don't know, it's just a little trashy. I'm just kind of like, okay, but, you know, why do you think that, you know? And then I showed her, I knew she was talking about black people, because black people started that. But
Sorry,
ooh,
everybody.
FaceTime. But you know, black people started the whole bright colored wigs thing. Um, but I showed her a picture of Kylie Jenner because she also did it a long time ago. She was like, "Oh, well, I mean, it's not bad." I'm just like, so it's just like those little small things. It's just like you think it's like it looks bad on one person, but you think it looks good on another person. There's obviously like a color thing there. Stuff like that. It's just like, and if you were to call that out, it would just be like, whoa, I'm not. It's like, no, you're probably not racist, but you have like internal biases built up that, you know, black people wearing dreads is like trashy, but you know, if you they're like stoners or whatever, if you see like a white person doing, oh, it's like pretty, whatever. So, you know, stuff like that, that you know, that's it's built in. And if you like, people don't want to be called out on it, but at the same time they want to be called out on it, at the same time they want to talk about it, but they don't want to talk, they want to talk about it on their terms, they want to post their like little
And that's
things. So
the
there's,
that's mainly the issue, is
it's
that
very
it's
annoying.
all on their terms.
It's
It's all
all
on
on their
terms,
terms, so there's
and
no real communication happening there, and it's
and that's the
just,
issue, right? Because I mean, every this all has to do with communicate. Because
yeah.
if you're able to communicate fairly with anybody in the industry, and you're like actually like be in the same playing field and be like of eye level with everybody, the jobs that people would have would probably be different.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
like not the jobs, but like the people working in those jobs would probably be different.
there needs to be like an HR or like a diversity coach like on set. I feel like you know how like corporations have it, they need that because
Diversity hires.
yeah, they do. It's just like, because you know, it's just annoying. It's like, it's
But
okay for you to be wrong.
Don't you feel like that, or like, because normally companies that have diversity hires,
No,
or like,
coaches.
sorry, diversity coaches, or like a designated like person in HR to get more diverse people, or like get more
No. Like a
diversity.
diversity coach, I feel like on set in my head, the function would be like, if you're working, let's say like you're working on set, half of your set is, I'm just gonna say Japanese. If half of your set's Japanese and you're American, there's a cultural thing happening there, and like Japanese people do certain things that we don't do in America. There's a barrier there. There might be. You know, there's a language barrier. There's a cultural barrier. We're completely like two different cultures. So
There's this thing though. I don't know if it's from outside the states. I talked about this with Maggie last episode. Not a lot, but slightly. Where, and I know this happens in every state because the union requires it, that at least I think it's 50%, or the percentage varies per state, but certain amount of people of your set, like below the line workers, have to be from that area,
yeah,
because like, if not only people from LA would be coming and going everywhere. And the thing is, I mean, yeah,
that's
you were
good.
hiring locals, but also is there diversity actually happening there? You know what I mean?
I mean, it doesn't. It might not be, because it's the rule is that they have to be local. I mean, there's white people here, and you could just hire white people from the area. You don't have to hire anyone that's black. So, even though we're like predominantly a black city, I think maybe
I honestly
we were
don't
at
know.
one point. I don't know, but No, like back to the diversity thing. I think there should be someone there to as like maybe as extra as it seems. Like there should be someone there so that you can communicate well. Like if half the set was Japanese, you were working with like Japanese people to do some movie about like I don't know Rashomon modern again, a remake or something. Yeah, just so that you can have good communication, you don't accidentally offend that person. You know, if like it's like, oh, if you walk into the room, take your shoes off, and because that's what Japanese people do, and so you have that communication, then you can avert things like that. So like I feel like if sets had a diversity coach, if you hire, you know, black people on your set, you can't be touching their hair. Like it's not good. So you should have a diversity coach there to be like, hey, don't touch black people's hair.
It just reminds
Stuff
me
like
of
that.
I can't remember who was talking about this, but there's somebody talking about this about Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That there was, you know, how they Bruce Lee's daughter, I can't remember her name, she was saying that the portrayal of her dad was, you know, not the same. Like he was not the guy, like he was not the way Quentin Tarantino portrayed him to be. Like he was super cocky. He was just like condescending in that way. Just treated people poorly.
Who, Bruce Lee did?
Yeah.
In real life?
But here's the thing. Like that's the way that Quentin Tarantino portrayed him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's not.
But here's the kicker though. Quentin Tarantino, in order to do research, he likes doing research because he likes being faithful to the characters and the people on screen. And what he did is he talked to people on set.
Yeah.
And most of those people are predominantly white guys. And if there would be a white guy doing these stunts, what Bruce Lee is doing, they'd be like, oh, he's just good at his craft. He just knows his worth.
Yeah.
But because Bruce Lee was an Asian stunt guy, an Asian actor that did his own stunts, he was like, oh, he's cocky. Oh, he shouldn't be that way. He should be more... Because of the cultural biases and implications of like, oh, he's Asian, he should be more reserved, or these type of connotations. But that's how they talked about him.
Bro,
the people on set.
Stunts were crazy, so honestly, like, I'd be cocky as fuck, dude.
But I
fuck
mean,
with me, bitch.
That's the thing, because there's different levels of association.
Yeah, there is.
Like, if there's a guy director and he's being really strict with everybody on set, he was like, go do this thing now. He's being like, okay, he's not taking shit. Like, he's strict. But if there was a female director and she did the exact same thing, he'd be like, she's bitchy today.
Yeah. Who did Tenet was directed by why am I blanking? Christopher Nolan. If Christopher Nolan was a woman, if it was Christina Nolan and you heard that Christina Nolan did not let you have let you sit down on set,
be like, she's a tyrant.
Bro,
she's a tyrant. Unacceptable.
Fucking crazy. That bitch is crazy.
Call HR. We're calling lawyers.
But because it's Christopher Nolan, everyone's like, oh no, he really cares about making sure people like.
If Christopher Nolan said you have to walk on your hands if you want to be on my set,
like,
everybody would be like,
I get it.
Let me stretch.
It's to train my mental stability on set, make sure I'm flexible.
He's so wise. He's so wise. He
knows exactly what's going on. Bro, if it was a girl, I'd be like, what the fuck you mean I gotta walk on my hands, bitch?
I want to sit down, bro.
Bro, if she was black, bro, I feel like people would be like, okay, I'm not racist, but like, that nigga crazy. Like, you know?
But that's the thing. I mean, like, that is the thing. Because
shit like that would be happening, I swear to God.
Because there's not,
But that's, privilege. That's,
exactly.
That's what that is.
There is... the different connotation for different people.
Yeah. I mean, it's good because you have all of these different voices, and as long as they all get listened to, then you have a better picture of what's happening.
True.
As opposed to, like, Quentin Tarantino's representation of Bruce Lee was funny, but it might not. He could have been a completely cocky bastard. I've met actors who I thought were great, and they were so rude. So it could have been that. Or maybe he was just this guy and he was just chilling and he just didn't talk to anybody because he felt like he didn't really need to, and he just did his stunts and then he went home. You never know. Maybe he was having a bad day that time that they saw him on set, but you never know. And you're never going to know because Bruce Lee's literally dead.
Yeah.
But that's why you have all of these different people that you can like talk to, and that's why you have all of these different portrayals of that person, because you get to, figure out for yourself what they are and what they did and how they were.
And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, like, that's the thing. Like, it's, I mean, the thing is communication.
It's
Especially these,
communication.
especially this in this industry. Like Orwell said, like, like a director needs an army, and like these army of people that are there, like, they all have to communicate effectively. And especially when it comes to like diversity, or it comes to like this and that, there's like so many different things that you have to take into account, like what people's perceptions of you are, and
Yeah.
what your perception of other people are, and taking into account like other things.
You also have to be
And
very careful when you portray other people that are not
especially with
you.
that, because like you have to take into account, like, I do feel like, I mean, like, yeah, it was funny and everything, and I mean, I like the portrayal of Bruce Lee in the movie.
At the same time,
just because I thought it was fun, but
a lot of people who watch that movie might have been born in 2002, have no idea who Bruce Lee is.
exactly, they'd just be like, this is just a cocky stunt guy.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like an ass.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Fucking,
also
like,
talking only to people who were on set is not probably the best thing.
It's not the best thing. I mean, yeah,
So,
like
because I mean, if Bruce Lee's daughter said this, then clearly, Quentin Tarantino didn't like address or take into consideration what she thought of her dad, or how he was at home or outside of work.
Yeah.
Which also has a lot to do with like building a character. Like everything outside of what can be seen. Especially, I mean, on set, yeah, because like the movie of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood takes place on a set. But the thing is, what was my train of thought?
Oh, I hate when that happens. I mean, it's a fun parody, because it is your movie, it's your parody. It doesn't always have to be, so truthful. But I guess whenever you make a work of art, what you end up doing is up to you, but you always have to be like mindful of, all of the different factors. I don't like people who just make things and are very careless about it, because you have to, at the end of the day, like, you have to be careful. Like D.W. Griffith's of Birth of the Nation, portrayal of black people, horrible for the black community. People were pissed. And then a lot of white people in the North.
And I can't believe that was like the first major motion picture.
It won an Oscar, right?
I'm pretty sure it won
an Oscar.
It's some crazy shit.
Awful.
Like that.
It's just, a good movie, but racist. Okay, like if it wasn't black people in the movie and it wasn't the KKK, it probably would be a great epic about whatever. But and if everyone was like, oh, technically, like, he had so many, it was like such a long, it was action scenes and fight scenes, and it's just technically
like nobody's
so good.
made a movie this long before.
Nobody made a movie
like
this long
It
before.
was like the greatest feat of like major motion picture.
It's a silent film,
historic.
but it's a fucking cinematic whatever. But at the end of the day, the way he portrayed black people was awful for the black community, especially because he screened the movie up north, where those people have no idea what's going on in the South. And literally, I'm pretty sure the average consumer does not do research. Pretty sure they watch the movie and we're like, yeah, so if you go to the South...
And also, you can't really do a lot of research at that time.
No, you can't. So it's just like, you just watch it and you take it in. And if you keep watching things, then you take them... So it's like, you grow up watching, black criminals on news, then you're just like, oh yeah, like, black men that look like that are criminals. And that's why you walk on the other side of the street. And it's stuff like that. So... the medium that you put out to such a large audience, you have to be careful about what you do, because if you're representing a community, especially, it can be horrible for the community if you represent them wrong. Like, yeah, no Birth of the Nations. Let's not do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on this episode.
Thank you for having me. Like, we're gonna do another episode.
Do you want to plug something real quick?
Not really, but I guess I have a podcast called Maya and Sam on the Phone. It's Maya and Sam OTP. We talk about, issues in the black community. We talk about anime. We talk about movies. We talk about games. We talk about whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. So, it's kind of that. It's my best friend. We do it together. We're gonna pick episodes back up because I think he finally got his equipment in the mail. So yeah, if you want to check that out, yeah, just follow me on Instagram. He'll probably tag me. So.
All right. Thank you for everybody that's listening to the episode. I just want to remind everybody that our Instagram changed because I may or may not have forgot the password for the last one. Now it's at the Film for Thought Show, and you can also follow us on Twitter at _ Film for Thought, and we also have a Twitch that we're going to be streaming there real soon.
Games.
That's going to be really fun. Yeah, games. Yeah. And you can follow us on Twitch at the Film for Thought Show as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and yeah, see you on the next time.
Peace.
Peace.